Hello everyone and welcome to episode 11 of Bite Size Rallying, and it's the turn of this, the Group A Ford Sierra RS Cosworth Rally Car, campaigned by Ford Motorsport during 1987 and 1988, and also campaigned by a whole host of semi-works and privateer rally teams in domestic rally championships across the globe in the late 1980s. So, picture the scene. It's 1986. And after a spate of serious and fatal accidents, the Group B Rally supercars are banned. And for 1987, the World Rally Championship will be based on Group A production cars, extensively modified, but principally production cars rather than the exuberant supercars that we witnessed in previous seasons. So, whilst many people, justifiably so, lamented the loss of the exuberant, spectacular Group B rally cars, what the new Group A regulations afforded was what must have been one of the most diverse field that ever the World Rally Championship ever witnessed in Grenoble in January 1987 for the Monte Carlo Rally. We had Lancia, who were expected to dominate and duly did for many seasons to come with the Martini Lancia Delta 4-drive turbo rally cars. Group A spec around about 250 brake. We also had Renault with the 11 turbo, Audi with the 200 Quattro sedan and the Coupe Quattro, Subaru with the 4-drive sedan, Mercedes with the 190e, Opel Kadett 2-litre front-wheel drive GSIs, Peugeot 205 1.9 GTIs, and these people, Ford, who on that snowy Monte Carlo rally hedged their bets, we had the Formula World champion Stig Blomqvist at the wheel of the normally aspirated 5-door Sierra XR 4x4 2.8 V6 and his teammate Callie Grundle in the 300 horsepower rear-wheel drive Cosworth Sierra. And Grundle pirouetted his way around the Ardèche and the French Alps in 1987 on his way to a shambolic 84th place on the Monte Carlo Rally that year. In contrast, teammate Blomqvist finished in the top 5. But Ford carefully considered the two cars that were available to them for World Championship rallying, and after a series of quite extensive evaluation, ultimately Ford decided to campaign the Cosworth Sierra on selected World Championship rallies in 1987 and 1988. And no doubt the fact that the Cosworth Sierra had already been developed for motorsport by virtue of its very successful touring car campaigns is probably what tipped Ford in favour of going with the rear-wheel drive but more powerful car rather than the four-wheel drive underpowered 4x4 Sierra. And certainly this was regarded as probably the most powerful car in World Championship rallying during the 1987 and 1988 seasons. Now, as we know, Group A was very much regarded as the cheating era of rallying, but some journalists did report that the Cosworth Sierra was in ultimate tune when the wick was turned up, probably had as much as 500 horsepower. Whether that's true or not, I'm certainly not qualified to say, but the car certainly were a handful to drive, and as witnessed by many drivers who campaigned the Sierra was very much on the ragged edge during those years. So, if we're going back to 1987, Didier Auriol was perhaps expected to take a victory on the Corsica Rally in May of 1987, where the Fords were largely anticipated to have the measure of the Lancias. Beat the Lancias probably, but it was the BMW M3 that took victory on that event, another rear-wheel drive, front-engine rear-wheel drive rally car. However, on the Rally of Finland in July and August of 1987, the Texaco Sierra was campaigned by Stig Blomqvist, and Ari Vatanen took a very creditable second and third place. Now, the fast flowing roads of Finland suited a car with maximum power, and although obviously the two-wheel drive was disadvantages against the Lancias, ultimately only one of them beat them when Mark Whelan took victory. And at a time, Vatanen, who finished second, it looked like he perhaps had a chance at victory, but the Finnish heavens opened and the traction advantage of the Lancia came through to see Alan take the win. Fast forward a few months to November in the wet and windy RAC rally, and the Sierras were also only beaten by one Lancia, that driven by Juha Kankkunen, when Stig Blomqvist took second place in this car, D935UOO, the Texaco Sierra. followed home by the Rally Engineering Development Sierra, driven by Scotsman Jimmy McRae, who took a fantastic third place. And indeed, it's interesting to reflect back on how Jimmy came to campaign a Sierra in 1987. And like many drivers, obviously Jimmy had been campaigning the Metro 6R4 in 1986, was banned overnight, so he was scouting around for a competitive car for 87. It looked like a major coup when it appeared that he'd secured a deal for RED to run a Lancia Delta Turbo in the British Championship and selected European Championship events, a full-flight Group A car. However, come February 1987 and the start of the National Breakdown Rally in Yorkshire, Jimmy wrapped up at the start line with a very standard-looking graphite grey deregistration Lancia Delta. Lovely velour interior, may have even had a stereo and a sunroof, and a roll cage. And aside from the roll cage, this car looked like it just turned away like the latest Lancia showroom around the corner. It certainly wasn't the purpose-built rally car that had dominated on the snow of the Ardèche a month before. So on standard suspension, Jimmy leapfrogged his way around the rutted, wet and snowy Yorkshire forest on his way to a very unspectacular 11th place. And as the weeks passed by, it became apparent that Turin wasn't going to be sending with us where RED were based, the bits to turn this lovely metallic grey Lancia into a proper rally car. So the Lancia deal was shelved, and Peter Kattanak, the team principal at Rally Engineering Developments, got on the phone to Peter Ashcroft of Ford and asked him if he had a car available. Ashcroft said, well, I've got a Recce Sierra at the back of the workshop at Boreham, and if you want to come down and turn that into rally car, you're very welcome to do so. This was something like 12 days before the start of the 1987 Circuit of Ireland Rally, round 2 of the British Championship. And sure enough, the RED boys got the keys to a transit van, put a trailer on the back and set off down to Boreham. And they arrived back in Widnes in Cheshire around about midnight that same day, took the Sierra off the trailer to put it in the workshop, left the engine running, and some joyous Ram Raiders decided to nick it. And subsequently, Jimmy's Sierra went missing for 2 days, and it reappeared with some cosmetic damage, and it had been used to ram raid the branch of the local rumble horse to nick some tellies. And the car sustained superficial damage, including some markings to the rear spoiler, which, because it was a major rush to get this car ready, they'd lost another 2 days thanks to these hooligans. The car campaigned much of the 1987 season with the chips on the rear spoiler, courtesy of the lowlifes. Anyway, Circuit of Ireland Rally, April 17th, 1987, Good Friday. And on day one, Jimmy, clearly the Sierra wasn't set up for the bumpy Irish tarmac lanes, and Jimmy and Cordavi and Greenwood were battling with Russell Brooks in a 180 brake Opel Kadett GSI. However, Jimmy, the master of the Irish tarmac rallying and the Circuit of Ireland in particular, having won it 4 times previously, played himself into the event gently, and come the start of day 3, quite a wet day in April in Ireland that day, he was doing battle with Dai Llewellyn, the Welshman, in the less powerful but 4-wheel drive Audi Coupe Quattro. But ultimately, Jimmy kept his cool, master of the event, and took a fantastic fairy tale victory, first time out in the Cosworth Sierra. And the 1987 season was a successful one. 5th place in Wales after turbo failure was nothing to write home about, but when we got to Scotland for the Scottish Rally, Jimmy McRae, going into the final day, had a 53 seconds lead over Llewellyn in the Quattro on this gravel event. And we were all thinking, is this the year when Jimmy McRae will win the Scottish Rally? He'd been second in 1981, 82, 83, 84, 85, and was leading 86 when the Metro blew up. Would 87 be the year, courtesy of the Cosworth, when Jimmy would win the Scottish Rally? However, it wasn't to be. Going into the dead of night in the downbeater stage, Jimmy overcooked it, had a punch, I think if I remember rightly, and as the dawn broke and the June Scottish forest, it was Dai Llewellyn the Quattro that was in the lead and took a victory by some 40 odd seconds. And yet again, the Scottish bagpipes piped Jimmy McRae over the finishing line in 2nd place. However, 1987 was a good season, as I've reflected. A 3rd place on the Ulster set the title battle up nicely, and on the twisty, fast tarmac of the Isle of Man, Jimmy took victory yet again, his second of the season, and in doing so clinched the British Rally Championship, driving this car, D48 SVW, as you see in the side photograph over my shoulder. And he campaigned 2 Sierras that year. D541 UVW was the car with the chipped rear spoiler, and 418 SVW was the new car for the Manx, I think. And again, on the RAC Rally, driving D4 SVW was a fantastic result, 3rd place, beating all the Lanciers bar Juha Kanken and his teammates Dick Blomqvist. And Jimmy also took the Cosy over to Belgium for the 24 Hours Ypres Rally and took victory there, which was a vital European Championship win as well. Oh, moving on to 1988, Jimmy had a new co-driver that year in Rob Arthur, and despite crashing out on the opening rally in Yorkshire, they took victory on the Circuit of Ireland, 6 victories on the Irish Tarmac Championship Classic for McRae. Did okay in Wales, and the Scottish Rally, Jim was up against Dial-A-Man in the Audi 200 Quattro, Russell Brooks and Mark Lovely in Andrews Heat for higher Sierras, Malcolm Wilson the Cadet GSI, and at last Jimmy McRae took victory on the Scottish Rally. The Cosworth Sierra had given him the victory that all the Opel Mantas, the Asconas and the Metras before and the Chevettes had failed to do. It was a joy to see Jimmy. Nobody begrudged Jimmy after almost a decade of trying, eventually clinching victory in the Scottish Rally in the Cosworth Sierra. And his son Colin finished either 8th or 9th in a 1300cc Nova, showing the promise that he would ultimately deliver in his career. So there we go, and then we're coming to the Ulster Rally in 1988 in August, and it was an epic battle between Jimmy McRae in the Audi Sierra and teammate Mark Lovell in his factory Sierra Cosworth. And these cars were in the bumpy Irish tarmac lanes. They were clearly an absolute handful, wet, bumpy, narrow, Nadjeri tarmac, and 300 horsepower, no, 400 horsepower, possibly, 500 horsepower, maybe. But the cars were a handful, and ultimately it was the experience of Jimmy in the Irish tarmac that came through. Lovell crashed, and Jimmy took victory on the Ulster, his 3rd victory of the season. So come the Isle of Man, Jimmy didn't really have to do much to clinch a record 5th British Championship title, to allow Patrick Snyers in the Bastos BMW M3 to take victory. Jimmy followed him home in 2nd place, and in doing so, 5 British Rally Championships for this legendary Scottish rally driver. And 1988 was also the year in which the Cosworth Sierra took victory on a World Championship rally when Frenchman Didier Auriol in the green and white liveried Sierra, the factory car, took victory on the Tour de Corse. And again, there was some good results as well in Finland and on the RAC Rally in November. Into 1989, and McRae campaigned the Sierra again, took victory on the Circuit of Ireland, a record 7 Circuit of Ireland victories. But Russell Brooks was the man who starred in the Sierra Cosworth that year, taking victory on the Manx Rally, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a really good tilt at the title, and come the season finale, the Audi Sport Rally in mid-Wales, on this wet gravel event, Russell was up against Dial-A-Man in the Toyota Sleeker GT4, probably the most potent rally car of that particular time. Russell ultimately knew all he could do was just go out and drive a barnstormer, and he was leading the event, leading against Llewellyn in the Quattro and a whole host of other 4-wheel drive cars. Ultimately, the fairy tale didn't happen. Russell, driving at 225%, crashed his Sierra, but he knew all he could do was try and win, so hats off to him for trying to do so. And 1989 was also the year where Colin McRae made his mark in the Sierra Cosworth. Initially ran a production Group N car after a string of accidents, trying to chase Pentti Rickler in the Gallant VR4. RED and Colin McRae ditched the Group N Championship aspirations, and they put Colin in a Group A full-flight Sierra for the final rounds of the Championship. And also, he took the Sierra to New Zealand Rally in 1989, took a fantastic 5th place, I think it was, on that event, which was to underline his potential in future when Colin became the master of New Zealand in the mid-90s. And they also crashed quite a good few Sierras, but he took the Scottish Championship title in 1988 in a whole host of cars, including the Cosworth Sierra, and had some spectacular drives in the British Championship in the Group N and Group A Sierras. So ultimately, the very pretty 3-door Cosworth Sierra made way to the rather ungainly, initially rear-wheel drive Sapphire Sierra before ultimately Ford replaced that with the Sapphire Cosworth 4x4 Sierra, which they campaigned the World Championship in 1990, 91, 92. But a selling Ford Sierra Cosworth, the Retmobile turned rally racer, was a fantastic rally car. Very, very spectacular, rear-wheel drive, turbo lag as well, which made it even more spectacular to watch. And people like Didier Oriol, Carlos Sainz, Colin McRae, former world champions, all cut their teeth in Cosworth Sierras and went on to win the World Rally Championship. And we also cars driven by the likes of Harry Batten and Jimmy McRae, Steve Blomqvist as well. So fantastic rally car. So thank you for watching. I'll see you again on another episode of Bite Size Rallying. See you again. Thank you.